Okay, thank you guys for joining again. I appreciate your attendance today. You've joined our ProLinkHFA webinar series that we host monthly. Today, we're going to be talking about collaborating with external partners using SmartDox and Procorem. So I'll go ahead and get started with our intro. I'm going to cover general information for a few minutes at the beginning here, and then I'm going to hand it off to Jim Paris to do our demo presentation for today. Just to kind of refresh us on the last few webinars that we've hosted, we've really been focused on discussing implementation, best practices, and lessons learned from some of the projects that ProLink has been involved in over the last year to 18 months. As well as adoption initiatives. So things that we're working on and kind of the programs that we've really sharpened over the last several months, around that same time frame, around 18 months or so, with our existing clients on adoption improvement efforts that we've made and customer support as well, how that translates into what ProLink is trying to provide our clients for customer support. And how we measure ourselves and the improvements in the performance that we are experiencing and providing our clients with. So that was kind of chapter one of this year's webinar series, covering our quarter, basically February, March, and April presentations. Starting now, we're going to be really changing our focus over to more functionality related topics. So more of that traditional business case and then demo coupling with that business case going forward through the summer. With Procorem and SmartDox as like our main features today, it's a great opportunity for us to present on kind of the origination and development side of that kind of forefront of a deal. So we're going to be focusing there, but realizing that Procorem and SmartDox are both products that are used throughout the deal life cycle with ProLinkHFA. So we're just sharing some of the business use cases on the origination and development side with those tools. And we will continue with that storyline over the next couple months. So talking about really the application and origination process today, and then how to set up those development deals in ProLinkHFA will be following, and I'll share more about that towards the end of today's presentation. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Bree Kreuter. I'm the Executive VP for ProLink. Many of you know me. Many clients are logged in here today. Maybe a couple others that are not current users of ProLinkHFA. So I'm excited to be here with you. I oversee ProLink's customer success program, and I really drive this series with my marketing team to provide both industry topics and news and things that we're thinking about from an industry perspective, and then also with our clients, what we're working on and focused on. So I'm joined by Jim Paris as well. He's our sales engineer, and so he's going to be hosting the demo portion of today's presentation. Just some general information about ProLink if you're new to us. We've been supporting the affordable housing industry since 1998, so I need to update this to, I think, 25 plus years at this point. And our clients cover really affordable housing, state and local housing finance agencies, tax credit syndicators and investors, developers and property managers as well. So through using Procorem as our collaboration portal between our state agencies and their partners, owner agents and developers, we've started to provide additional services to those groups as well to help support the requirements they have for our state agency clients. We've been focused in our work on building a holistic tool set that really covers you through the entire deal life cycle, which you're going to be seeing over the next few months us talk about in relation to the demos we'll be providing on this webinar series, from that origination stage all the way through asset management and compliance, and then even the disposition and reinvestment of those properties. we really try to cover that full cycle, but also supporting the multiple different parties that the participants in affordable housing. So across the clients that we support, we're all working on the same projects. We all look at the same information, different slices and combinations of data, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to meet the same compliance standards and fulfill the same mission here. And we have built a number of tools to help bring efficiency to that process. Our team, we're mission-driven folks and we're technologists first. This is a software company, but as you personally know yourselves, the affordable housing industry is complex and it takes time to really learn it to the level that you really need to build tools that meet affordable housing needs specifically. So I'm really proud of the team that we have at ProLink, many of which have been with us for 10 plus years and know this industry, know the business needs of this industry just as much as the technical side. Just a few little highlights about us and the work that we are doing in affordable housing leadership. We are supporting right now 17 state housing finance agencies with ProLinkHFA. We also support 2 supportive services agencies. And then we have private sector clients, our syndicators and investors in affordable, which make up 5 clients for ProLink right now. Industry partnerships, we are very active at NCSHA. If you're going to the conference next month, because technically we're in May now, so June is the big showplace for NCSHA, and you'll see me and others from ProLink there. So we're big partners and supporters of NCSHA, and we really try to leverage each other in education opportunities throughout the year and through conferences to support the needs of this industry and the changes in regulatory requirements that are often discussed and we figure out how to handle through NCSHA. The NAMA XML Standards Group is another organization, another committee that we're heavily involved in, which is that standard XML that is pulled out of many property management tools. So ProLink, we sit on a committee called NAMA that helps to manage those requirements and align the needs of our state agencies with the data available in those property management tools, so that as changes happen, such as average income test, and new data is required, that those fields are added to that XML standard and we can pull that data in and make that a more automated process for those property managers and our state agencies during compliance. So that's something that's an ongoing effort on everybody's side involved in that group. From an industry education perspective, we do host this monthly ProLinkHFA webinar. We also host a Procorem webinar as well. We have, I think, 20,000 users on Procorem currently across state agencies, owner agents, developers, other affordable housing, parties that are involved with agencies from time to time. There could be attorneys and others that are included in some of these projects. So it makes up quite a large group and many different business cases to take advantage of Procorem. So we have a little bit of a different audience and a broader reach that we offer through that webinar series. And we do more training there as well. So actually supporting for instance, the property managers during their tenant event compliance and providing some training to them virtually so that they know how to submit those things through Procorem and have some additional support available to them through that busy time of year. We have our ProLink Technology Live conference that we host, which is open to everyone, but it is a training conference that we host every fall, which is virtual. And then finally, we have our in-person user conference, which we used to host back before we all went remote for a little period there in 2020. We only hosted an in-person conference. We did not do ProLink Tech Live. When we did go into our virtual work environment, we weren't meeting in person. we started our Tech Live conference, and it got such a following that we decided to keep that separate and also then offer back our in-person user conference this year. So that's for just our ProLinkHFA clients who are live. And it was so wonderful. We hosted it for the first time since 2019 last week, which feels like a eon ago at this point. And we had some wonderful strategic conversations about ProLink's roadmap and the features that we hope to add to the product going forward. We had a lot of sharing between agencies in like best business practice and using different pieces of ProLinkHFA. So looking forward to continue those conversations with our agencies. Thank you to those who might be logged in today and came last week to Denver to meet with us. And then, of course, technology leadership. If you've attended before, we're an Amazon shop. So all of ProLinkHFA and our products are all cloud-based. And we use Amazon Web Services to support a lot of the tools that we need around our security and hosting on the cloud. So here's just a picture of the states again that we are represented across those 17 agencies and the 2 supportive services agencies, which are located in New York and California. So you can see those little spots in those areas for New York. Well, New York is totally covered because of ProLinkHFA for the state as well, but we do support the supportive services piece for both New York and California. And then just quickly, our technology stack, if you're not familiar. So we're talking about ProLinkHFA, which is our database backend portal. It's kind of what I call the holy grail of like final record keeping of your data. And then Procorem is that front office portal that you're using to collaborate with external parties on. I call that the messy deal room too, because it's where you're going to be going back and forth, potentially kind of working out the requirements and managing those relationships and needs. That all kind of happens in Procorem before it's then pushed to ProLinkHFA for that final source of record. So we have our housing agency who's working both between Procorem and ProLinkHFA to receive that information and analyze that information. The modules that are included in ProLinkHFA, we have our asset management and compliance module. We have a multifamily development and bond financing module. We have a single family development module as well. There are a few additional kind of sub-modules or features that we have built into ProLinkHFA, including supportive services, REO, and Budget Pro. Budget Pro is a construction draw management application that we built into Procorem, and we are connecting to ProLinkHFA. So just another kind of feature that has grown out of some of the projects that we've done with our agency clients over the years. Okay, and that covers my introduction. I'm going to hand it over to Jim so that he can start the presentation for our demo. So thank you again for being here, and I will wrap things up at the end. Jim,
Yeah, just sharing my screen here. So today I'm mostly going to be working out of Procorem and SmartDox, but at the end of the day, the information we're going to be getting from those developers is going to end up in ProLinkHFA. I'm working out of a dev deal that deals with it's going to be a deal that deals with home historic tax credits. But this page might look familiar to some of you. It might not look so familiar to others. I know we have some clients of ours, but some agencies who aren't clients yet. So I'm going to try to keep things a mix of kind of like an overview of how this works, but also some stuff that I think might be new to some people who are familiar with ProLinkHFA or Dev Module and Procorem. But as most of you guys know, our Dev Module is where the data for a funding application or a deal that's in process resides. So here on my deal overview page, this is going to be like my general salient facts of the deal, where it is, what funds are related to it, any summary of draws or uses that have been taken out so far. And then under edit deal, I'm going to have a little bit more information just generally about this deal or this development. Again, where it is, total development costs, deal type, status, is it a new construction or rehab, stuff like that. And then I have additional information, what kind of developers working on this, etc. Then income limits. So if I have multiple layers here, that would show up here. For this specific demo deal, I got 100% at 30% AMI. And then my stage and status history, and then any custom fields I wanted to add. And today, a lot of the information I'm going to be working on through Procorem and SmartDox is going to relate to my deal budget. So deal funding, of course, it's going to be mostly dependent on what comes out via that funding application. So what programs are involved in this, and how much in funds are coming from each of those programs or grants or loans, etc. And then another big thing that I'm going to be focusing on throughout the demo today is going to be draws. How do I collect draw requests from the developer? How do I approve them, and how do I get them into the system here in ProLinkHFA? But as a lot of you guys know, the biggest way I collect information, or I should be collecting information from that developer partner, is going to be through Procorem. I already have the tab open, but I should be able to access the deal in Procorem through this link up here. And as Bree was mentioning before, what Procorem is it's that external portal that lets you exchange information and communicate with and collaborate with those external partners. And in this use case, it's mostly going to be around that developer partner. So when I have a work center here, this work center can be set up based on the structure of both files and folders, as well as tasks. So the way my deal is set up here, I have a few different categories of documents that I have here. So I've got applications and underwriting, and I have my application. This is the application they uploaded. And then I have my forms and templates. So I've got my templated applications here. So this could be a LIHTC application, a funding application, maybe even an HCF application. Those templates can exist within the work center for the developer just to grab, fill out, and send back to you. And then tasks are also a part of these work centers. So, in ProLinkHFA, I know some of you guys probably know about checklists and workflows, but tasks here allow you to not only assign tasks to each other within the agency, but it gives kind of like a workflow to the developers and your external partners. So these tasks can be set up by stage in that application process, and they can kind of be ordered in the appropriate fashion too. They can be dependent on each other as well. So I can make this complete your application dependent on them paying the application fee first if I want, as an example. And then, of course, some of the stuff below, that initial review is, of course, going to be dependent on them sending you the application in the first place. So I'll show you kind of an example of like how a task works here. So if I want them to complete the application, my assignee here is going to be that developer. And one thing I like to know, because you're going to be creating different work centers for different deals, right? One is this whole structure can be templated, and I'll show you that later. But the second part is you can assign tasks based on role within the system. So when you invite a new collaborator, you'll assign them a role on the deal. So I'll go back to the collaborator screen, or the task list, which shows the collaborators. you'll see everybody here has kind of like a role underneath their name. So you can see Dan developer is, of course, the developer, and then you have me, the asset manager, and you'll probably have like a development officer from your team. See, we got Kelly and Senius there. So when I go back to tasks and create these tasks or edit these tasks, what I can do is I can assign this task based on their role. So if I go back here, I just delete the assignees and I go back and add them. You'll see that's going to give me Dan, the developer, as a assignee. Sorry, I need to remove developer first, and then see. I pulled in developers. Dan developers the developer on this deal, so I'm able to assign just by role. So it can work with all other types of roles. If there were 2 people from the developer agency or the developer firm on this, you would see them both populate when I pick the developer role. So you have assignees on tasks, and then you have approvers on tasks. So let's say my developer submits their application. I need to make sure they did it right, of course, before I tell them that it's done. So I can have people from my agency review their application, and they can go ahead and give them feedback in the comments if they need to tell them, hey, this is complete, or hey, you're missing some information, or hey, can you clarify this or that? And then they'll go ahead and approve the task, and then it'll be considered complete. You also have this at the bottom here, which it's called followers. So people who don't really need to do anything, but they kind of have a vested interest in this task getting complete, because maybe they have to do something on the next task. You can order these. So, if you want to do like a 1 through 5 kind of system, you can do that, or you can click this task flow, which will create kind of dependencies on other tasks. So that example again of, I want to make sure they paid the application fee before it triggers them to actually fill out the application. A couple of other notes to make here on the task and how you can kind of structure it is reminders. So you can customize these reminders, and the users can actually pick the option of like, hey, do I want a daily digest of my reminders all in one place if I'm on a lot of work centers, or do I want them to just send, or do I just want them sent individually? And you can set this up to where, based on what type of assignment they have on this, they'll get a reminder. So let's say I just want my assignees to get that last, like, hey, it's due soon email 3 days before, but the 2 weeks before reminder I just want to give to my or I want to give to everybody who's on this task. But I can add as many as I want. Let's say past due, let's say 1 day after it's due, I want to notify everybody. I can save that. And really I can add as many as I want, just based on how often I want to remind people. And then files. So let's say I'm telling them to fill out the application, and they're like, oh, well, where is the application? That's not a problem. I can link them to the file in the work center that relates to that task, and it'll send them right over there. We do have activity log. So anything and everything that's been done on this task can be shown. Of course, for this demo one, it's just me. But if you see people, they're going in, changing reminders, or saying, or an assignee say that they did their part, you'll see all this kind of in an activity log. But that's kind of how a task is set up in Procorem here, and it'll really it's really meant to in a detailed way guide this developer through this process in a way that's really easy for them, but also easy for you. One thing I like to mention is we do have templates. So let's say this is the first deal I've ever created in Procorem. I can actually turn this into a template by clicking Work Center as a template and saving it. And then when I want to create a new work center, let's say I get a letter of intent from another developer, what I can go in and do is I go back to my account here. I can create a work center. Let's say I'm going to call it ProLink Avenue, and I'm going to collect the categories, of course, going to be templates. and then the category is going to be pipeline because it's a new deal. I'm going to select a template. I'm just going to use, let's say, my LITEC template. And I'm going to make sure I'm importing file folders and tasks. I don't really need to import posts or collaborators. I can create like a general welcome post and import that. But I'm going to go ahead and post this or save this. And then what happens is this work center gets created based on all that formatting I did. So every time I have a new deal, I don't have to recreate all of this. I can just apply a template. I'm going to go back to Garden Court though, and kind of walk you through, let's say I get that application from the developer, and I want to then take that application and input it into ProLinkHFA. So now we're going to be able to get into SmartDox. So let me go back to Garden Court Apartments. So you see I have my applications and underwriting. I have my applications, my forms and templates. So this is the template document they use to fill out an application. I go up a level, and this is where they've kind of submitted that application. I've already got it pulled up on my computer though. So here, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to work on Garden Court. So I'm going to go back to my dev deal. I'm going to go to my deal overview. I'm not going to go in and create and change a bunch of crazy stuff. I know we're like a little bit limited on time, so I'm not going to fill out an entire application in front of you guys. But just to kind of demonstrate how SmartDox can work and SmartDox can pull this stuff in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pull in just some basic information here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure I get the data. So make sure this is updated with the current data in ProLinkHFA. It might take a second for the gets and the sends. All right, so now I'm going to go here. I'm going to change a field. I'm going to go ahead and send the data into ProLinkHFA into the Garden Court Apartments deal. So what would happen there is it would go ahead and populate the deal here in ProLinkHFA after sending that SmartDox. And then it would populate all the other information based on that SmartDox application. And then another thing that we could start doing here is not only on this application can I use SmartDox, but what I can do is I can do dev deal draws with SmartDox template forms. So here, I'm not going to do another get and send, but what I will do is in my Garden Court Apartments deal, what I'm going to do for the developer is I'm going to give them a draw requests template. So what I can do now is I can have this template for them, and what they can go ahead and do with this template is now they can fill out kind of their construction draws requests. So you can see this is all mapped to SmartDox as well. I can do like a get or a send with this information. I mostly have this stuff for gets because the developer is going to fill it out and then send it to me, and I'm just going to upload it right away. But they can go ahead, download this template, and then they can put multiple draws in as well. And then once they fill this out, they can upload it back to you in Procorem, kind of in the same way that they did with the application. And then it'll go ahead and it'll update the draws section of ProLinkHFA. So here my draws section, it's going to outline all the uses. And it can populate kind of all this information and then the hard costs and soft costs associated with that draw. And then approvals, you can create custom fields for the approvals process as well within ProLinkHFA. And it all kind of ties back to this deal budget page that outlines all the different sources and uses. So that's really how I would do like draws within Procorem and SmartDox and ProLinkHFA. Another thing I wanted to touch on was like the potential of having a deal that involves like multiple funding programs or multiple, or like a tax credit program and a different funding program. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to create a deal that is both a LIHTC and housing trust fund. So I can use multiple templates and combine them into one deal. So I'm going to go back to Housing Finance Agency, and I'm going to go ahead and create a work center. And I'm going to call it Jim Paris Avenue. And it's LIHTC's involved. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the pipeline category and use the LIHTC template. I'm going to make sure all the files and folders, as well as tasks, are imported. And it does take like a minute for it to all kind of populate. But as you can see here, I'm really going to focus on these allocation documents. You see my MF application, and then my reservation memo here as templates. And then I have more templates down here as well for budget, LIHTC application, and my master underwriting template. So you can see it's pulled in all of the stuff for like a LIHTC deal. So if this was just a LIHTC deal, I'd kind of be done creating the work center, right? But in this scenario, we're incorporating both housing trust fund and LIHTC in this. I went back too far. Jim Paris Avenue again. So here, what I'm going to do is I want to pull in another template as well and kind of combine this with housing trust fund, like I mentioned before. So what I can do is I can go to work center settings, and over here I can see import from template. So I want to import something from a template. So I want to bring in my housing trust fund template, make sure all the files and folders will get imported. And then we should now have, under allocation documents, see we both have the MF application for the LIHTC, a reservation memo, and then we have our HTF documents in here too. So what I've done is I've kind of merged together those two templates. So now I can collect that housing trust fund application as well as that LIHTC application from this developer, all within the same work center. The last thing that I'm going to touch on a little bit here is, I know I went through draws, right? So you can do draws through that SmartDox template system. But one thing that we do offer to some of our clients is, well, it's in Procorem. So one thing that we offer as an app in Procorem is this construction budgeting tool. So if you ever see this widget, this is what that is. So I'm going to go into another deal that I have this all set up in. So I have my construction budget tab, right? And that's going to take me to this screen. And this is called Budget Pro. And Budget Pro is really a way in Procorem for developers to create budgets, construction budgets, and have you approve them as the agency. And then whenever they ever need a requisition or a draw, they'll request that through here as well. So it's more of like a streamlined and collaborative way to set up that construction budget and those construction draws through an app rather than through SmartDox. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to view my budget. There's two different ways of doing a budget here. I have like a non-finalized budget that uses basically like the cash method, where it's saying like, hey, I'm going to need $100,000 for concrete. I'm going to need $100,000 for masonry. And what I can do is I can fill all this out, and then when I want to finalize this all, what I can do is lock down the budget and then submit it for approval to the agency. So I could fill all this out, and then it'll be approved by the agency as far as the budget's concerned. But once the budget's approved, what I can do is I can start creating requisitions and asking for money from the agency for certain things related to construction. So this budget in particular is also under that accounting method. And what I can do here is I can create both a line item budget and a units of measure kind of budget here as well. So let's say I need 500 units of concrete and it's $21.31 per unit. I can set it up that way, or I can use that cash method. But what I can do here is create requisitions as the contractor or the developer. Some developers give their GCs access to Procorem so they can enter this information in themselves. But what I can do here is go ahead and create a requisition, number it, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to request 50 units of concrete for building 1, 20 units of clay for building 1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it'll all be kind of based on the units of measure I submitted and the price per unit that I submitted when I entered those units of measure. I'm going to go ahead and save. And what will happen is when I go back to the Bimini Bay Apartments budget, this requisition is going to show as pending, and then somebody from the agency could come in and approve that requisition. And then, you know, everything that's been done and approved here can be input into ProLinkHFA, you know, kind of after everything's approved. But I think that's going to be it for our demo section today. I think we got about 5 minutes left, so I think I'll pass it over to Bree here to close things out.
Thanks, Jim. Give me a second to just pull up our last slide for the day and reshare the screen here. Okay. Okay, thanks, guys. So just a reminder, we do share our slide decks every webinar that we host. So you should be able to see me scrolling through now. These are the screenshots that Jim put together to highlight the demo that we covered today. So generally when we host these sessions for you, we like to do a live demo. Obviously, that's much more, I think, captivating for all of us. But these materials are sent out as a follow-up to everyone who registers for these webinars. So just keep that in mind if there's any note-taking going on or you have any questions about a specific area that we covered. You can see we're pretty robust about the information that we share and the screenshots that we provide as follow-up to these webinars. So yes, just keep that in mind. The last comment I will have for today is just our next webinar coming up. So next month for our ProLinkHFA series is going to cover how to structure your development team in ProLinkHFA. That will be hosted on June 5th, Wednesday, June 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So please keep that in mind, and we look forward to seeing you there. It will be with myself and Jim involved, potentially a client with us as well, to help kind of provide some commentary on how they are structuring those development teams. When we don't have a client involved with these webinars, then we definitely are taking in many different use cases that we know about with our clients. But it's always really nice when we do have somebody on with us who is willing to share that experience. So we're hoping to have that for you here next month on June 5th. And with that, we will conclude for today. So thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Please reach out to us if there's anything we can answer as a follow-up from this webinar. If you have feedback, please provide it. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great week. Thanks.